and see. There'll be love and laughter and peace ever after. Tomorrow, when the world is free, the shepherd will tend his sheep, the valley will bloom again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see. The shepherd will tend his sheep, the valley will bloom again, and Jimmy will go to sleep in his own little room again. There'll be bluebirds over the white cliffs of Dover. Tomorrow, just you wait and see.
When the world is cold, I will feel a glow just with your smile so warm and your cheeks so soft. There is nothing for me but to live just the way you look tonight. With each word your tenderness grows, tearing my fear apart. And that laugh that wrinkles your nose touches my foolish never, never change. Keep that breathless charm. Won't you please arrange it? 'Cause I
Now, what did you do? Look out.
down by.
Never, never change. Keep that breathless charm. Want to please arrange
Yeah, or that. Sit over that menu if you want.
Ladies and gentlemen, our photographer has asked if we can all please smile for the camera. Cheers to Ken. Do not judge a biography by its length, nor by the number of pages in it. Judge it by the riches of its contents. Sometimes those unfinished are among the most poignant. Do not judge a song by its duration, nor by the number of its notes. Judge it by the way it touches and lifts the soul. Sometimes those unfinished are among the most beautiful. And when something has enriched your life, and when its melody lingers on in your heart, is it unfinished or is it endless? Today is a sad day, but nevertheless, it's a good day, because we're not here to close the door on the life of Ken Mitchell, but to keep it open and to celebrate him, his life and his character, and allow the memories of him to flow, to make us smile, to prompt us to follow his example, and be thankful that our lives have interconnected. Today we mark the gentle passing of a loved one by balancing the sadness and sense of loss with a celebration of the life that was lived and is now ended. On behalf of the family, Helen, Tina and Frank, Jackie and Wayne, Paula and Richard, David and Holly, and Carolyn and Phil, I'd like to welcome each person here. I'd also like to welcome those of you who are watching this service via live streaming or at a later time. We especially think of Ken's family in Wales, in Yorkshire, also in Western Australia and Texas. My name's Rennie Nisi O'Connell, and with me today are Peter and Simon, Brendan and Stephen. And as the staff of Parkside Funerals, we're privileged to have been entrusted with the care of Ken after his death, and of playing a part in this ceremony today as we honour Ken. Thank you too for wearing a touch of red for Ken. It looks fabulous from here. At the conclusion of this service, the family warmly invites you to stay on for a beverage and a bite to eat, and of course a chat, as we continue in remembering Ken's life here at the soccer club. And while you're enjoying the refreshments, a photo slideshow will play, showing some of the scenes of Ken's long and wonderful life. Be sure to take a moment and watch for that. So as we begin this service, if you haven't already done so, could you please turn your mobile phones off or onto silent? As we begin this service, I'm going to invite Mr. Michael Foote from the soccer club to come and share some of his memories of a man that gave so much to this place. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. I wore the jacket that Ken was probably most recognisable around this place. If I get a bit emotional, it's not because of Ken, it's because I saw Ray Parker and I'm still scared of him. And I agreed to do this, but you caught me at a weak moment, Helen. You know, it was only after I said yes that I realised that Ken's a bloody Liverpool supporter, so... But anyway, he's probably my favourite Liverpool supporter. Second favourite, oh. I was sort of trying to, I mean, we all know Ken was here for years, and I was sort of trying to equate it to my time here. I rolled up here in about 1976, and Ken had already been here for 9 years. But my time seems like a lifetime. Ken had already been here for 9 years, and then when I sort of moved away from actively being in the club, Ken was here for another 7 or 8 years after that. So it's a long, long time. In that time, he's fulfilled many roles. And I wrote a list because I couldn't reel them off the top of my head. He was obviously a player with the club and was playing when I first started. I played a few games with Ken. He was a coach, not only of grown-up teams. He was an active junior coach and a parent coaching David. So one failure, but anyway. He was a manager. He was at one stage, I think it was 1977. I saw him there. He was the president of the club. I found a newspaper article, I've got it here if someone wants to read it later. He was actually our first vice president of the club in 1976, the year before he became president. He was a general committee member on and off for many years. He was a staunch promoter of the game of soccer for juniors and anyone who wanted to hear from Ken. He was a big promoter of soccer. He hated AFL. You could get a bit of a conversation about rugby out of him, but it was soccer. And of course, he was a long time supporter of the club, especially once he sort of moved away from being involved in any official capacity. When I coached the ladies, you know, he was an advisor, an assistant. You'd see him trudging around this ground after the game, picking up the corner flags. You know, he was just always there. And of course, he was, along with a core group in the early days, a very hard worker at the club. They had a dream to build the facility down the road at Knights Road, and Ken, along with quite a few others, worked hard in making that, bring that dream to reality. And then once the building was up and running, again, another group of hardcore workers, and there's a few here, I've seen Betsy and Helen's here, of course, that worked, Mr. T and Mrs. T, of course, there they are, to raise money to keep the club afloat. They worked tirelessly down there for functions and all sorts of things down there to keep the club running and to bring money into the kitty. And of course, when you're working so closely with lots of people, you build lifetime friendships. And ones that came to my mind, and I don't know them all, but I know Sam and Teresa Smith. I don't think they're here. They were good friends of Ken and Helen. Otto and Rosalind, everyone knows Otto, and I don't think Otto had a whole lot of friends, but Ken and Helen were friends, and if Otto and Rosalind happened to come down, they'd go out for a meal. I went with them once and stayed in touch all that time. Ken and Charlie Vella, when Charlie was coaching the ladies, they became good friends, and they'd have an annual meeting before a game, discuss what was going on and have a cup of tea. And of course, Billy Drew, a lot of people don't know him, and I think he and Ken were quite friendly. And Ken, when I was younger, Ken would always make sure we knew what contribution Billy had made before the likes of me and others came along. And of course, Bob and Lynn Mills, I think probably that I know, probably the best friends that Ken and Helen had from the club. They're here today, come down from the mainland, so welcome, thanks for coming. But of course, Bob and Ken they got up to a few antics, so I've heard. Well, Bob's not backward in coming forward. I thought Ken was a bit reserved, but a couple that Helen mentioned to me, which apparently, if anyone knows Udo Wallinger, there's a few of the older people would know Udo. German, but not that means anything, but quite, I would imagine his house would be neat as a pin, nothing out of place. He was a jeweller by trade, so I imagine he had a bit of expensive stuff hanging on the walls and around the place. But Helen was telling me a story about Ken and Bob trying to do cartwheels or something down his hallway. So I don't know how that went down. And we used to have these nights. Helen reminded me the other day about we'd have a Greek night or a Dutch night, and again, Betsy would organise a lot of that. And I think Bob and Ken tried to do some sort of Zorba the Greek dance with the hankies out, and I don't know if they smashed any plates or anything. And my favourite one is always, as a younger person, seeing these older men. It was Bob Mills there dragging Ken round on a blanket. I always mention this. On that big dance floor that's down at Knights Road, massive dance floor, and Bob's dragging Ken round on a blanket. I've actually got a photo. It was worth wasting all the ink in my printer. It's my favourite Ken photo. He's got a big smile on his face. And Bob's dragging him around. It got me to thinking that if say, someone in their 40s, Belly, are you 40? Nearly. Someone like Belly and Silky up there, if Ken saw them doing that, what would he say? Would he say, bloody idiots? Or would he say, those were the days? I don't know. Sorry, get my page back. Of course, there's a couple of little incidents, and Sarah Glover just filled me in on one that I had a list, but I didn't really know the details. When I was coaching the women, we must have had a big game in Hobart, and Ken decided to go down with Nikki McKenna, Naluka McKenna. I don't know if anyone knows her, remembers her, the girls do. And she was on the soccer field, she was pretty unpredictable. I don't think she knew what her next move was, and apparently her driving skills were much the same. And Sarah was just telling me Ken was hanging on for dear life as she sped through different past speed cameras and overtaking in places. What did he say, Sarah? Once, oh my God, or something like that as they were driving. And I think we gave him a fair serve when got down there and stirred him, and we're not sure if he actually went back with Nikki. We think he might have caught her eye with someone else. Helen remembers, and I remember this, but I can't remember anything about it. I know Ken and I sang "There's a Hole in My Bucket, Dear Liza." We sang that. I thought we sang it on a bus, and Helen said we sang it in a pub somewhere. But I was dominating the performance, and Ken was making me look bad, apparently. And Mitch, you might know this. Did Rod Andrews nickname him Bucko?
I thought Keith Hamilton, Jeff Miller.
Someone, well, it might have been Jeff. Someone named him Bucko, and I don't know what that means, but they called him Bucko. I would have thought being Welsh they'd call him Boyle. But anyway, and then moving on, you know, I coached the women for quite a while with the help of Lee Glover, and Ken was our third man, you know, and I look fondly back on the times once the games were over, and Ken and Lee and myself will be sitting there with a Guinness discussing the events of the day, wondering, was it odd that all the girls were in the change room ready to play and Lucy sitting there breastfeeding a baby at the same time, you know, but they were good times, and he'll sorely be missed. And I sort of was thinking, it's hard to believe that we won't see Ken here anymore, but it's not hard to believe that he'll never be forgotten. His name's on that stand. It's on the back of this shirt somewhere. It's on the wall in there, and it's in our minds. So rest in peace, Ken, and condolences to the family. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I learned a little bit about Ken the other day. I learned that he was born in Cardiff in Wales in the UK on Tuesday 21st of June 1938, and it was on the eve of the Second World War. It was a long, long way from Tassie. Cardiff is a city with a lot of castles, a great love of music that the Welsh people are so well known for, of soccer, of rugby and of coal mining. His family were determined that Ken shouldn't work in the mines, so it was a fortuitous day when his uncle Wilf took him to a massive building site where Ken was initially employed as a tea boy, making cups of tea for the workers and later doing odd jobs on the site. It's my guess that he was a pretty useful young sort of bloke, for he soon offered an apprenticeship as a builder carpenter, which set him on course for his life's journey. When his apprenticeship was finished at the age of about 21, Ken did his national service, which no doubt most of the young men of his era completed, for the scars of war were very familiar, along with the knowledge that young men were needed to protect home and country. When Ken returned from national service, the weather was grey and miserable, and his mates had all married or moved away or were no longer around. Ken felt a bit down, so he decided to enlist in the regular army. He got to travel to far off places, to Germany and other parts of Europe, to the Philippines, and he loved seeing the world. It was probably his time in the army that birthed in Ken the strong feelings of mateship, of standing by a friend in need, of commitment to a cause, and these personal characteristics were to be hallmarks of his personality for the remainder of his life. As a young man, Ken met and married a young woman called Lillian, and he was overjoyed to become a father to Tina, who was born in Malaysia, and Jackie, who was born back in the UK on the Tidworth Army Base. Life was adventurous, rich and full. It was time to leave the army, and after all Ken's travels, he was restless with life in the UK. And he began to wonder what life would be like in another part of the world. He was especially interested in South Africa and Canada, but he heard about a scheme the Australian government was offering to tradesmen and people with a profession for the handsome sum of £10 to get a Pommy family out to Australia for £10 and he came to a little town called Ulverston, and there was even a house included. It was an opportunity too good to miss out on. And so the little Mitchell family came. Carolyn was born in 1969, and Ken, being a highly skilled carpenter builder, had no trouble getting work. And he even worked as far away as Lake Pedder. It wasn't long before Ken became a single dad to his 3 little girls, who he loved beyond measure. It wasn't easy, and there was so much to do, running a home, working full time, and being the best dad he could be to his girls. Someone once said, good timber doesn't grow with ease. The stronger the wind, the stronger the trees. And so it was for Ken. The struggles and the tough times made him stronger and more steadfast. And his girls loved him so deeply in return. And he was grateful for the kind help of supportive neighbours who helped him with after-school care, with sorting out school uniforms, and really practical ways of showing kindness. It's a great time at a time like this to remember how much kindness, simple acts of kindness, change people's lives. Every 6 weeks or so, Ken paid for a babysitter so that he could have a night out, listening to a local band, for music flowed through his veins, and having a few dance moves with other young people was a great night out for him. One night he went to the Gateway Motor Inn in Devonport, where a disco was being held. And there happened to be a strikingly beautiful young Avis rent-a-car represented there with a co-worker on an overnight stay after delivering 2 vehicles. Ken and Helen's eyes met across the room. They ended up taking the dance floor by storm, and the rest, as they say, is history. They began to see much more of each other, and it wasn't long before they realised that they wanted this to be forever. Their little family grew to 5 beautiful children, with the addition of Paula and David. Of course there were ups and downs. Life always seems to throw those at us, doesn't it? But Ken and Helen weathered them, and always was this underpinning love and respect for each other. Helen remembers well the renovating of the little home in Gaffney Street, making room for them all. Ken's family told me he was a loving, attentive, yet firm dad. Tina remembers him walking the length of Raby Street with her, applying at every shop in the street when she left school for a job. He wanted to support her and help her. What a beautiful, supportive dad. Often when I lead services such as this, I look for the themes of a person's life. What was it that made them tick? What was it that meant so much to them? I didn't have to look far before I learned about Ken's love, or should I say passion, for soccer. We've already heard a lot about it from Michael. He loved everything about the game. In Wales, the game of rugby was the major sport, but not for Ken. For Ken, it was soccer. He played the game when he was well into his 50s, and he became involved with the soccer club here at Ulverston. And he's given incredible support to it. He also encouraged his children to play and love the game as well. And as David grew, he grew to love the game, and in time he and Ken were hugely instrumental in building the club rooms. I heard about paperback books being used instead of shin pads. All the family knew all about that. David's still an avid follower, and 2 of his daughters, Danielle and Maya, have also followed in that family tradition. But Ken followed all the sporting achievements of his grandchildren, not just those who played soccer. He coached, and he helped coach women's teams. Helen told me that their joint love for the sport and the social clubs introduced her to people from backgrounds from all over the world, and they formed lifelong wonderful friendships that they both treasured. Another one of the themes of Ken's life was his love of music. He was a wonderful clarinetist, and in Wales he played in the Royal Dragoons Army Band, and if you watch the photo slideshow you'll see photos of Ken with the band members, and he played for many years with the Burnie Concert Band. Ken also loved animals, dogs, birds, and especially canaries. And I found it really beautiful that when Ken moved to Mount St Vincent, Tina downloaded some canary whistling to play to Ken, to comfort and to warm his heart. In time, grandchildren made their way into the world, and just as Ken had been a loving and kind father who did everything he could to be the best dad possible, so it was with the children of his children. Someone once said, with your own children, you love them immediately, and with your grandchildren, it's exactly the same. Every achievement, no matter how small, was celebrated and noted. Sporting achievements were followed avidly, and I'm sure that must have meant so much to these young people to know that their granddad was following every game and interested in every aspect of their lives. All the time Ken was continuing in the building game until one day David visited him on a building site and said, "Dad, this work is too heavy for you to be doing now." And so Ken reluctantly agreed and found a very different sort of job as a maintenance officer with Multicap in Burnie. He grew to love the residents he came into contact with and loved the work that he did there. It was in about 2012 that Ken became somewhat unwell. He went into hospital for a heart bypass that ended up being 6 bypasses. And while he was in hospital, further tests were done, and it was discovered that Ken had tuberculosis and Parkinson's disease. It was a terrible blow for him, and ultimately it ushered in retirement. The Parkinson's took its toll, and Helen did everything she could to make Ken's life happy, comfortable and supported. It's not easy providing full-time care for someone whose health is declining, yet she did it with such love and grace. I know each of you, Ken's family, is so grateful to her. I also know that each of you did your part in letting Ken know that he was loved and cared for. Just a little over a week or so ago, before Ken's death, he moved into Mount St Vincent in Ulverston to give Helen a little break. And here he received excellent care from his beautiful daughter-in-law Molly, along with each of the staff, along with each of the staff that cared for Ken. It was becoming apparent that Ken's time with them was drawing to a close. So each of the family did all they could to ease his suffering, to let him know that he wasn't alone, and make his remaining time comfortable and his passing gentle. Ken's journey ended amongst us as he slipped away to join others who had gone to that place of which we know so little.
You'll remember me when the west wind moves among the fields of barley. You can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold. So she took her love for to gaze a while among the fields of barley. In his arms she fell as her hair came down among the fields of gold. Will you stay with me? Will you be my love fields of gold. I never made promises lightly. There have been some that I've broken, but I swear in the days still left, we'll walk in fields of gold. We'll walk in fields of gold. I never made promises lightly, and there have been some that I've broken, but I swear in the days still left, we'll walk in fields of gold. We'll walk in fields of gold. Many years have passed since those summer days among the fields of barley. See the children run as the sun goes down, as you lie in fields of gold. You remember me when the west wind moves among the fields of barley. You can tell the sun in his jealous sky when we walked in fields of gold. When we walked in fields of gold. When we walked in fields of gold.
In keeping with the generous nature of this beautiful family, they've requested that instead of bringing flowers to this ceremony today, that donations may be made at this service to Parkinson's Tasmania. We'll forward them on in the next day or two so that others with this debilitating disease may be assisted in some way to live better through Ken. The donation box is just here behind me on the table. Ken's death marks a lot of changes for his family. Helen, life changes forever for you. This soulmate that you have spent so much of your life with is now gone. Each of us here offer you our support, our love and our kindness. To Tina and Frank, Jackie and Wayne, Paula and Richard, David and Holly, Caroline and Phil, he was a wonderful dad to you all. He will leave such a gap in your lives. An always interested, devoted pop to 13 grandchildren, Sean, Hannah and Samuel, William, James, Ashley and Michael, Chantel, Stacey, Danielle and Maya, Kurt and Leah, and to also to 17 little great-grandchildren. He was loved by his Yorkshire and South Wales family and family in other parts of the world as well. If Ken could speak to us today, I wonder if he might say words like these. I hope there'll be no fuss when I find the time has come for me to die. No fuss, no tears, no wasted flowers, just all the memory of happy hours. I want no morbid grief or strife, for death, like birth, is part of life, and my memorial you will find in those I loved and left behind. So many years were mine to give, to savour all that life has to give. Moving on from stage to stage, I found new gifts at every age. All this I had, all this I keep, as tired now I fall asleep. Ken, you have left a memorial in the heart of each person here as we remember your courage, your commitment, your single-mindedness, your enthusiasm, your zest for life. You have left a memorial in this building that you helped create as the memories of your commitment to this club and the game of soccer are revisited. Ken's family would like to sincerely thank Holly and the staff at Mount St Vincent for their compassion and care, and also to Elise and others from the soccer club who have been unstinting in their efforts to have Ken's life celebrated in this beautiful outdoor cathedral. Ken, you were a true gentleman in the oldest, truest and most elegant sense of the word. We're glad that our lives intertwined with yours. We're glad that we met and shared part of our journey with you. You meant different things to each of us here, but to your family you were a treasured and cherished husband, father, grandfather, neighbour and friend. We have loved you so deeply, and now we farewell you. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your journey. And so it's fitting that we have met to say farewell to Ken. Our hearts ache with the need to let him go. We wish that there could have been many more years. We scatter these petals onto his coffin, reminded how beautiful and yet how fleeting life is. And we say thank you to Ken for sharing those days of our lives with us. We know that he will be taken from this place and cremated, eventually returning to the earth, ashes to ashes and dust to dust, as it has been from time immemorial. And so this celebration in honour of the life of Ken Mitchell draws to its close. The Guard of Honour will move to their places to honour Ken one last time. Our funeral staff will come forward and we begin this most final of journeys for Ken with love, respect and gratitude. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand and come on the Reds.
Are you Reds?
Through the storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of a storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of love. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, for your dreams be tossed and blown. with all in your heart, and you'll never you'll never alone. Rwyt dim yn cofio marchen, does neb yn ei nabod o. Mae 1600 o flynyddoedd yn amser hir i'r côr. Ond aeth Magnus Maximus o Gymru yn y flwyddyn 303.
Ken Mitchell.